Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Show every Monday at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 5:45 p.m. Pacific, or in this case, 8:47. We are in Waiver Wire Week 6, NFL Week 7. I'm here with Casey, Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk waiver wire football with you, cowboy.
Thank you for that introduction of yourself, Ross. And now we have, I wouldn't even call him a special guest. I mean, Jim Ginocchio, former sports broadcaster with Turner Broadcasting and NBC, has been with us before. He's been on many, many shows now with Ross the Boss, their Super Draft Sports Show. I'm coming on Thursday. I can't wait to join you guys and find out what this is all about. And Jim, thank you again for joining us.
Oh, you bet, man. I can't wait to have you on Thursday. We'll get Ross the Boss fired up, man. It's ready to go.
I can't wait to go crazy on that show on Thursday. And we get to talk about what's happening on Thursday. We probably have Thursday Night Football, which is great. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
We have Thursday Night Football, and believe it or not, my friend, he convinced me to go to 2 games. He came into town, and I have to go back and watch the Browns again after that game. Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah. You went to the Browns game on Sunday, and you saw them get not beaten but destroyed by the Phoenix Cardinals, who are now 6-0, the only undefeated team left in the league. And now your team's like a walking wounded. I mean, your whole team is going to be out next on Thursday, I believe.
It was very disturbing. I was reading Dante's Inferno, and there is a circle of hell that had that Browns game in it. I swear, everything was bad. So I am now wearing an Otto Graham jersey because I was like,
Holy
back
cow.
to the good old days.
we're going back to it. And that brings us into quarterbacks. Otto Graham is my number one pickup at quarterback.
He's been retired. I think he's deceased, so you can't pick him up.
Listen, he would do better than some of the guys I did pick up.
Okay, you're probably right.
Hey,
All
what
right,
about Jim Hart from the Cardinals? I mean, the last time they were 6-0 was 1974. I mean, come on.
And Jim Hart was the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Well, listen, guys, if you're watching this, do not listen to our advice so far because we're giving you nothing. Let's get to some guys we can actually pick up. Remember, this is Yahoo, 60% rostership and below. Ross, I'm going to start with you so you don't get all ornery right away. We're going to get you later.
I have a huge dilemma this weekend because I do have just Dak Prescott in a few leagues, and he is hurt, but he's also on bye week. So I'm thinking about these. I'm going to say a couple names. I want to know who you guys like the most. Tua is playing at home against Atlanta. Atlanta's DBs. If you could name one DB from Atlanta, I'll give you guys $10. You guys can't do it. Don't go to the computer, Casey Scheinfeld. Don't go to that computer.
But no, that's Miami's DBs.
Atlanta's DBs are the worst. So I'm thinking maybe Tua I might pick up, or Jameis Winston is playing at Seattle. They had a bye week. Supposedly Michael Thomas is coming back. Supposedly they're having another wide receiver come back who's been hurt. They might be at full strength against Seattle's weak defense. They don't have that Legend of Doom anymore. That's over. So I like those two guys. I don't know who to pick up. I want to hear your opinion.
I don't know, but I love how you turned the Legion of Doom into the Legend of Doom. I just had to mention.
Close enough. Just tell me who.
And it's the Legion of Boom.
So those are the two guys I'd like. There's some more guys out there that you guys can talk about too, but I have a huge dilemma this week, and I'm not quite sure who to pick up. So there you go.
All right, well, let's see if we can help him out. Jim, if you're in fantasy, who do you pick up? 60% and under, if you can manage those numbers. Who do you think you'd want to pick up? Now, we have a comment. Wichita Films says Tua. That's the way to go.
Well,
Jim, what do you think?
Honestly, coming from Atlanta, I say Tua too, because I know the Falcons too well.
Tua well.
I mean, let's face it, the Falcons are struggling this year. And, they just I would take Tua. Heck, he'd be a Super Bowl quarterback at the end of next Sunday.
Well, and people were very excited about him when he first came in, and then he sputtered out. He wasn't looking so good, but maybe all that time off and studying things will bring it back. He's still an extremely talented guy.
He had 300 yards last week and 2 touchdowns, so that's not too bad.
No,
and he did it without two or three starting receivers. So I agree with both of you that Tua is probably number one, but I'll even take the counterpart in that game on Sunday. And Matt Ryan has been pretty darn good over the last 4 weeks. I know they just had a bye, But so the past 3 weeks, he has over 1,300 yards with 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So if you're averaging more than 3 touchdowns with only 1 pick a game and over 300 yards, that's a pretty good average. And he did that 2 weeks ago without his number one starting wide receiver, who I know Ross is a big fan of. We'll talk about him mid-show, maybe a little bit. And it looked like he might have figured something out with Kyle Pitts. So if he can put that together, I think he's another one who you have to consider running, especially if you have somebody like a Dak Prescott who's on a bye, or even Trevor Lawrence. That if you're forced to run Trevor Lawrence out there, the Jaguars are on a bye this week too.
So now you're really confusing me, Casey. Now I'm down up to 4 quarterbacks I can choose from. Keep going.
Well, let me confuse you even more, because in a bye week, it's a little bit of a crapshoot that you're choosing between these players. Pick the guys who are playing the bad teams. This is why Tua is a great pick. These quarterbacks can absolutely explode against these bad offenses. And listen, if you happen to have a quarterback that's playing against the Cleveland Browns right now, play them. I think Teddy Bridgewater is more than 60% owned, so I don't think you can get him. So you're out of luck this week. But there's plenty of decent guys out there. Derek Carr has dipped under 60%. I know he's not lighting the world on fire, but he's a solid quarterback. I said Carson Wentz was going to be a decent play this year. Some weeks he is, some weeks he isn't. You got to roll the dice. In the bye weeks, you got to get by somehow.
Yeah, he's going against San Francisco. That's a pretty tough defense.
Yeah,
it is, but they haven't performed that well, honestly.
No, they've been very, very underachieving. They haven't been playing that well. And I believe that's a Sunday night game, right? Or is it Monday night? I know they play prime time.
It's Sunday night. Now, and I also don't like that San Francisco's coming off a bye, so they've literally had 2 weeks to prepare for this game.
I know, guys. I'm pushing for Tua. I think I'm going to pick up Tua. I'll put that waiver wire in the.
Hey, now I got to throw this curveball in here, though, guys. I mean, postseason baseball, I got to throw a curveball in. So Pete Carroll is talking to good old Cam Newton. So who knows what's going to happen there?
That's true. Now, would I be comfortable starting Cam Newton this week?
No.
No.
He doesn't know the playbook. The guy hasn't run the offense. How's he going to even play?
But maybe you pick him up in a deeper league or in Superflex leagues.
I mean,
Cam Newton, Gino Smith. I mean,
it's like looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to running backs in a second. But first, a note from our sponsor. We are sponsored by Killcliff. Killcliff CBD, the best tasting CBD drink in the world. Orange Kush, Mango Tango, Strawberry Days, the grapest of all time, and Joe Rogan's spicy pineapple called the Flaming Joe. Founded by a Navy SEAL, for those who aren't Navy SEALs, it's the biggest no-brainer in the history of drinks. Go to killcliff.com. Thank you for showing that, Ross. Let's move on to running backs. And Jim, I'm going to let you go first.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. Well, I'll tell you what, I did well last week. I mean, knowing the Chicago situation and the Kansas City situation, I picked up Khalil Herbert, and I also picked up Darrell Williams. And my fantasy team just went bam.
That's bananas,
and I beat my fantasy guy in a big way. He was shocked.
See, that's the kind of strong word we're looking for out of this waiver wire show. We mentioned those guys; those are the guys to pick up. So this week, Jim, since you did so well, do you have another guy that you'd pick up?
Who's your secret weapon, Jim? Tell us.
My secret weapon. Well, I tell you what, I think Mark Ingram might be a secret weapon, considering the Texans. That's about the only guy that can probably do something. And so that's my secret weapon this week is Mark Ingram from the Houston Texans. I think that he might be able to do something. I don't know what, but I think we can get something
Jim,
out.
That's a great. I mean, 18 carries, 75 yards last week.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take a running back anytime who gets 18 carries, especially if he's on the waiver wire. It's not. Yeah,
you can count on the volume.
I again, if you're starting Mark Ingram, I don't know if you're going to win your league, but it's not a bad guy to fill in during a bye week.
Yeah, but Jim's not saying pick up Mark Ingram.
How do you really
start him
feel
for the rest
about
of the year.
that, boss? I mean, come on.
I am a truth sayer.
So for example, if you have James Robinson with Jacksonville on a bye and you need somebody to fill in there because James Robinson's been a number one running back. Somebody like
unbelievable
Mark Ingram
Casey Scheinfeld. I love James Robinson this year. He's been continuing what he did last year, and he's a number one running back. I had doubts this beginning of the year, but my doubts are over.
Urban Meyer tried to kill him, but he couldn't. He just couldn't. He tried to put Carlos Hyde in there, and then realized Carlos Hyde couldn't run very well.
And realized it was not Ohio State anymore, and he needed to move on.
I think the top pickup this week. We talked about. Jim, you brought it up. Khalil Herbert was a great pickup last week. Darrell Williams was a great pickup last week because of injuries. Well, where are the new injuries this week? But it's in Dan's hometown. It's in Cleveland. You got Kareem Hunt and you got Nick Chubb missing this Thursday night game, and it's on a short week. So somebody like Demetric Felton, who got a lot of kind of hype at points during the preseason, is going to get that volume that we talked about because they're so thin at running back. And this is a guy who has shown with the time he's had, he's a capable runner, but added bonus, people, he qualifies at both running back and wide receiver in Yahoo leagues. And so he gives you some versatility there where if you're deep at running back, you can still add him and get running back volume at the wide receiver position, which is kind of crazy. So to me, he's the top pickup this week.
Casey.
But what about the Ernest Johnson? What about
Casey,
the Ernest
you're
Johnson?
wrong again. The Cleveland Browns came out today and said that Ernest Johnson is going to be their starting running back.
I understand he's going to be the starting running back.
Casey Scheifele.
Look, Nick Chubb has been the starting running back all year, and how many times has Kareem Hunt outscored him on the back end?
Johnson did it last year when the whole team, when the running backs were hurt.
Look,
Ross, again this year.
Of you can be loud at the top of your lungs. That's fine. I'm just telling you who the top pickup will be.
Who wins?
Okay, what's the bet?
I don't know yet.
All right, Dr. We'll Dan decide by the end of the show.
You know what? I'm going to weigh in on this as a Browns fan. You know, a sage of these things. I predict things and then they always go wrong. But Ernest Johnson, I think, is the pickup this week because I think the guy who's actually going to perform better this week is Ernest Johnson. However, if you're looking for a long-term play, Demetric Felton is going to have a role when Chubb is back and Hunt is not. So if you're looking for a longer-term play to pick up, I think Felton is the guy. And look, you got to remember, in these bye weeks, you are looking for a dice roll a lot of the time. And you're going to miss
Felton
it.
Not going to fill the Hunt role this week? Why would
he's not big enough for the Hunt role?
The coach believes in D'Ernest.
He does, but he also believes in two running backs getting volume every week.
Let me bring another piece of perspective from the Browns are missing their two tackles. We looked horrible. We couldn't move the ball at all. So it doesn't matter who you pick up on this team. I would rather plug in Mark Ingram.
They can pick up.
There you go, Mark Ingram.
I mean, Jackie Slater can come out of retirement and the Browns will still be bad. Doesn't matter. The Browns are just
listen when they get their tackles back and Nick Chubb, they're going to be. I don't know that I would say fine. This has me genuinely worried. But right now, Ernest Johnson is a fine dice roll. Demetric Felton is a fine dice roll. I'd rather have Ernest Johnson the two for this week. But I'd much rather have Mark Ingram than either of those two. The Browns are a mess right now unless their tackles are back, and on short, I don't see that happening.
The other guy who we've plugged on this show before, and for those of you who watched the football team play the Kansas City Chiefs last weekend, you saw Antonio Gibson leave the game and not return. Well, J.D. Mckissick has had a role all year long and has been fantasy viable almost all year long because he's the pass catching back for a lot of, and he's the 2-minute offense running back, and he's the short yardage or goal line running back. Now he might not have Gibson in front of him. So there's another pickup, especially if you're in a bye week. Who do they play? They play, it's even better. They play Green Bay, who's not the most stout of defensive teams. I think he's probably a better play than either of the Browns if we're worried about splitting, or Mark Ingram in that respect.
Let me ask you guys this. Where does Alex Collins fit on this list? He's at 60% rostership. What do you think about Alex Collins? He's dinged up himself. That whole situation's a mess. They don't know who they're starting.
But the rumor in Seattle is Penny's going to come back. He's their first.
Yeah, Rashad Penny's coming back.
He's coming back this week.
First round draft pick out of San Diego State. He's going to get the ball next week too with Collins. Collins looks great. I want to grow my hair like Collins. He has those dreads. He looks tough. Ross the boss wants to look like Collins.
You think you want that? We want to see that.
I want to be that guy. So he looked fantastic. Seattle. I know they lost, but they played a good game. Was tied 17-17. The same time the Dodger game was tied 4-4. I didn't know what to watch last night. I was going back and forth like a maniac. I was calling Jim saying, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going back and forth." We were both going back and forth. It's crazy. So that being said, Collins, I love. You can pick Collins up, you pick him up. I don't know how long Carson's out for. Do you guys know any week? I think it's a couple more weeks, right?
Didn't they put him on the IR?
They did put him on the IR.
Yeah,
So he's out at least 3 more weeks.
It's at least 3 games. So he missed. Right. So he's at least 2 more games. So the other guy I like also, we talked about him before, and he plays for a team. I'm going to say it. I know you guys. It was a rule. Ross's rule.
Going to make us laugh.
Oh no, here he comes.
And Michael Carter is definitely the leading running back in New York. Jets. I will start Michael Carter if it's a bye week. I guess I will break my rule for a bye week. But Michael Carter had a bye week last week. Now all these other bye weeks are coming up. If you need a running back, he'll be starting. He'll be getting carries. He'll be getting the ball in the backfield, passing, everything else. So Michael Carter for me could be a good pickup for you this week. And the other guy I like, he plays in New England, is Stevenson. I think he's out of the doghouse for New England. He got the ball a lot. He got a late touchdown. It could be a good pickup because Harris is kind of hurt. So keep an eye on Harris. If he plays this week, Stevenson could be the main running back in New England this week. Could be a great pickup for you.
I like that, Ross. I think that's a great one. I also have Michael Carter near the top of my list, if not at the top. I'm not a huge fan of a Jets running back, but
no,
he's like Mark Ingram, except he's going to be there all year.
I agree. I mean, I know Jim was raised in New York, and know secretly he's probably a Jets fan. He won't admit it on the air, but I bet he does like the Jets and Joe Namath, all that stuff, all that history.
Number 12, baby.
I'm sure he likes, especially with the Yankee pitcher in the back. I guarantee.
Well, Yankees and Giants tend to stay together, and that's
because they played at the Yankee Stadium together. That's why.
But again, guys, there's a lot of teams on buys this week. You got to be smart. You got to use your waiver wire and pick up these guys if you want to win your league. So please listen to us. We know what we're talking about. I know we like to have fun. We joke around, but in all seriousness, we just gave you like 5 really good running backs to earn you 60%.
Hey, Ross, I have a question for you as the resident Bengals fan. They say Samaje Perine is going to come off the COVID list this weekend. Joe Mixon has been banged up, nicked up, not all that great at points this season. What do you think his impact could be fantasy-wise?
Not a fan. I mean, no? I like Evans. Evans had a touchdown. He's a third string running back. He caught a touchdown pass for the Bengals this week too. I never seen him have like a great game for the Bengals. I mean, Mixon had a touchdown also. He caught the ball too. So, I mean, if it's not Mixon, I'm not starting any Bengal running back. It has to be Mixon. Okay. Mixon or bust.
Okay, and then
I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you one more. Sorry, Case. I'm going to give you one more name.
I want to hear one more. What's the genius idea you had to interrupt my great rant about? What is it?
I love he sees that as an interruption. I waited for him to stop fully. Then I interrupted Casey afterwards, and he still thinks he got interrupted. Okay, so Devontae Booker is still a decent start for a bye week start. I know he didn't play that well last time. I know Casey's thinking,
as
oh my
Giants
God,
fan, I threw up in my mouth a little bit.
I think,
but Casey, you just recommended
he can do better.
You just recommended Demetric Felton. He's one of 2 guys.
I'd rather own Demetric Felton than any New York Giant right now.
Well, we are 2 self-hating fans. All right, guys, I'm going to check in.
Joe Pisarcik play than any Giant on the roster right now.
I'm going to check in.
As long as Herm Edwards isn't on the other side.
I'm going to check in for comments from the fans. We want to hear from you guys. We love to debate fantasy sports with you. Put your comments below. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing. But put your comments below. We want to hear from you. The rankings for our football show are available for the football rankings for the week are available each Wednesday at www.mfsn.tv. Check out Ross, myself, Casey, Jim. We got to get you on there. We'll get you into that.
We'll get Jim on there. I want to see his ratings.
And listen, I want to say something about that. If you're looking at our rankings and you're like, but you had Dalvin Cook here, we have to make some decisions. When we get to Wednesdays, we got to make some decisions. We don't know who's starting. We didn't know if Dalvin Cook was starting. We tried to rank him accordingly. We'll adjust it as much as we can and keep you updated. Okay, guys, wide receivers. Casey, I'll let you start since I'll let the other guys start. Your turn to start, top of the list, wide receiver.
Well, I think this past week, if we're going just on this past week's performance, I think Henry Ruggs kind of jumps out at me for what he did for Las Vegas last week. He's going up against Philadelphia this week. And let's be honest, Philadelphia didn't show the most astute pass defense against Tom Brady and the Bucs on Thursday night. And so I think there's some potential there. The other guy I like, and I talked about him a few weeks ago, is somebody who just came off the IR and just had his first touch in the NFL this past week. And that's Rashad Bateman in Baltimore. I think He's a really nice compliment to Hollywood Brown. Lamar Jackson is playing better than he did during his MVP season. He's a man possessed right now at quarterback. They're going up against, I believe, Ross's Bengals this weekend, and it could be a lot of passing and a fairly high scoring game. It could be one of those game scripts that supports that. Those are the two guys who I saw out there below 60% that I would at least be excited about going forward.
Jim, who would you add to this list? Let's
it's interesting. I did a show earlier with Ross, and I told him about how the first time in almost 3 years I was hesitant to start Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. But then I watched the way he's having to change his game plan. And I think one of the guys I would take is McCole Hardman, because he's not really ranked that high. And I think he would be a great guy to hit on those short passes that can really take off over the middle. And
he's been getting a lot of target the past 3 games. He's the most targeted guy right now for the Chiefs.
Yeah, so there was a lot of skepticism about what Josh Gordon was going to eat into Mecole Hardman's targets when he was signed. But so far, what is Gordon getting? 1 or 2 targets
like 11 targets last week. I mean, he's getting the targets. Unbelievable.
He is getting the targets.
That's a really good pick.
It's a good pickup.
Now, I still have at the top of my list is still Tim Patrick, because Jerry Jeudy's not back. I think if you're looking for a 1 week
this week.
Oh, I thought he's not coming back.
He's back. Sutton had a touchdown, late touchdown. I mean, Denver's going to fire a coach. He's
supposed to be coming back this week, Dan.
Yeah.
Really? The information I had read was that he was not coming back.
But Tim Patrick did have a touchdown. It was at the end of the game, though.
Listen, the Browns, all you have to do against the Browns is you get it to 3rd and long, and then you'll complete a touchdown. Yeah. It happens every time. It was a disgusting display. So Browns, you're deserving this beatdown that I'm giving you today. Christian Kirk also, he's a guy that I'd like to, if I had to roll the dice on somebody, Christian Kirk is a decent one to do it. Now I understand Arizona's deep. They have lots of great players, but Christian Kirk is the one guy out there that I see that could put up huge points. Marquez Callaway also could put up some big points. They could lay an egg. That also is possible. But you could get a lot to point out of him.
Christian Kirk, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. AJ Green had a touchdown. I mean, I think you got to join that train for Arizona. Arizona is just an offensive machine.
They really are.
I'll be curious to see. I'm curious to see how Zach
tight end on that team. Go get Zach Ertz.
I'm curious. He's over 60% owned, but I'm curious to see how he fits in there.
Oh, he'll be wide up the middle. He'll be throwing passes right up the middle. He's not afraid of doing that, like some people we know, Casey Scheinfeld. But he is going to.
Who else, Ross? You know who else qualifies at wide receiver is Demetric Felton. I don't know if you've heard about him. He's this player for the Cleveland Browns.
So I am going to talk about Donovan. I want to get his football jersey. I just like how it looks. Donovan Peoples-Jones. He went to University of Michigan. He's like the number 1 receiver now for Cleveland. I mean, he really is. I mean, everybody's hurt. He's out there catching passes, scoring touchdowns. He's
and a big target too.
Big target, big hands. He's unbelievable.
You should have seen.
I like him. The other story I want to talk about is this: Jacoby Meyer. He sounds like a law firm. Jacoby Meyer. If you have a lawsuit, you call Jacoby Meyer. No, so Jacoby Meyer. 35 games in NFL, 0 touchdowns, 0. You know how hard that is to do, Casey Scheinfeld?
That's easy. Really I have 0 touchdowns also.
I was going to say, I would probably have 0 touchdowns.
So I watched watching the Dallas game. I got back from softball yesterday. I turned the Dallas game on. He catches a touchdown pass. The idiot lineman was holding, and they called it back. So he did not score a touchdown. He did throw for 2 touchdowns last year, but this year, 0. He has no touchdowns as a receiver. It's unbelievable. I'm rooting for this guy. I think next week's this week, though. Jacoby Meyer, I hope you can do it next week. I'm going to take you in fantasy just so you can break that streak of 135 games without a touchdown. That I feel bad from, but he catches the ball all the time. He has a lot of yards, PPR. So somebody else that I like is we talked about AJ Green, Donovan. I think we talked about everybody. So there you go.
Oh, nice. I was like, I'm just going to let this play out for as long as I can.
See where it goes.
I'm looking at my list, and you guys took everybody I knew.
Anybody have anybody to add before we move on? We're gonna do some time to cut ties. Who do you cut ties with? Are we ready to move on to that, guys?
Sure,
I'm ready.
All right. So I want you to think about the guys that you think are way too rostered at this point. They just are showing no signs of life, and it's time to move on from them. Ross, I'm not going to let you go first because I know you're going to get on a real rant here. So we're going to start with Jim. Jim, who are some players that you might be surprised to find yourself ready to cut ties? And if that's putting you too much on the spot because you were not prepared for this.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that one. But let's try somebody else. Let me think about that for a second.
All right, I'm going to come back to you,
I got a couple
Casey.
of ideas. Yeah.
All right, I'll let you think about it. Casey, who do you got?
Well, the first guy that comes to mind is, I mean, look, am I going to cut bait on this guy? No, we're going to talk about people who I think you assumed were going to be a number one or a guaranteed starter week in, week out, who suddenly you're questioning. How about A.J. Brown in Tennessee as a wide receiver?
Oh, wow.
On the season, he has 130 receiving yards and 1 touchdown, and we're going into week 7. Like that's a little bit unexpected. How's that? I'll put it that way.
Wow. Very nicely said.
Now, remember, everybody who's watching, he's not saying cut A.J. Brown, but he maybe you deal him for 75 cents on the dollar. Or maybe you just are frustrated with him and you bench him on certain days where you just don't.
Calvin Ridley is another wide receiver who comes to mind. I know that's one of Ross's
favorites. I wonder where we get that idea
from. to pick on. Ross thinks he invented the wheel, ladies and gentlemen.
I did. Calvin Ridley, big bust. Christian McCaffrey, another huge bust. I mean, if you look at the first round picks, I mean, even look at, we talk about this guy every week. I hate bringing his name up because I feel bad for him, but look at Kittle. I mean, Kittle was like maybe a first round, second round, for sure a second round pick.
What if you used your first overall pick on Christian McCaffrey at this point, who I believe several of us on the show said I wouldn't use my first round pick on him because, what's the most important ability of a running back is availability, and this guy hasn't shown it. He and Saquon Barkley are kind of racing to the trainer's tent.
Another great example of a wasted pick. I mean,
yeah, that is.
I mean, there's a whole laundry list of people. Calvin Ridley.
I'll tell you guys, it's really interesting because we're talking about top round picks, McCaffrey and Barkley, and we had our draft, and we ended up having one of the 1 to 10, and then so what is it called? It's a
snake draft.
Snake draft. Yeah, and so it drove me crazy because I had the first pick.
Oh, and so you had to wait a long time.
Oh my gosh. And so I had to make a decision. I was going to go McCaffrey, honestly, first, but for the first time, I took a quarterback in my first round for the first pick of the entire draft. I took Mahomes because I just felt like, you know what? Let me see if I can get Kelsey on the rebound, and then I'll build my running backs in the second part of the draft. Anyway, it's worked out because McCaffrey got hurt. Cooks got hurt. I mean, there's running backs that got hurt, and now my team is number 1 in the league, and I chose Mahomes as first.
It's brilliant. I mean, another way of saying what you're saying is, Mahomes was a serious no risk pick. The only way you're really going to kill yourself in that spot at the one spot is pick somebody who doesn't have value. I said there's no way I'm picking McCaffrey number 1.
Yeah, I was with you on that one.
There'd just be no way. I know he has the value to be number 1, but the likelihood of him getting injured was extremely high. And I was also the guy and I'm not saying this just to toot my own horn, but I'll go ahead and do it. I was looking at Chuba Hubbard as a guy to have as your backup because he was going to start games. It was very clear.
I mean, another guy is Myles Gaskin is another guy that kind of failed this season. I mean, people had him in 7th, 8th round pick. Gaskin, and I, never a big fan of Gaskin. I thought Malcolm Brown was going to take his spot, which he obviously, I think he is already. And then Justin Fields, I feel is a big. I don't think Justin Fields. They're not letting him run the ball. I mean, he's barely has any rushing yards. He's not. The offense isn't built for him. He's not the right quarterback for that team. And I feel bad for the kid. I think he has a lot of talent, but obviously he's not built for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Ross, I have to add to that real quick on Justin because I watched that game, the Packers and the Bears, and you watch Justin, and your quarterbacks that have been around the league for a while, they know if they're getting about to get sacked, they'll throw it downfield and just waste a pass, throw it out of bounds, whatever. Fields didn't do that. I mean, he played like a rookie, a true rookie, by taking those sacks and getting in trouble. And it was just he just needs that experience before he becomes that starter.
And, some advice I want to give people watching is this: if you're trading, which I like to do, if a player like Lamar Jackson's playing on prime time and he just had a huge game, and everybody's watching the prime time games. I don't know if the people watch Sunday games as much as they do prime time games, but I know everybody I know watched Lamar Jackson actually like kill it and come back in the second half and had a huge fantasy game. That's when you go out and trade him. When he's high like that on the pedestal after a huge game on prime time, that's when you go out and you trade those players like that, and you get so much more value because they played so great during prime time and everybody's talking about them. Their value is up here. I mean, you can the ceiling keeps going. So what I'm telling you now is, if you're trading, which you should be trading, it's the bye weeks are happening right now. Is the time you should start be trading. If people know value of players now. Please trade, folks. Please go for your weaknesses. Build your team. Get ready for the playoffs. You got to start now. I'm Ross the Boss. That's free advice.
Bold strategy, and I don't disagree. I think you want to trade, and that's a good time.
You got to trade. You can't sit complacent with your team. If you sit like your team with Casey, what Casey Scheinfeld does, you're going to lose.
This is why I dealt. This is why
trade. Just like.
First
like
place in our league,
Ross. Trade.
Where are
this
you?
is why I traded for Kareem Hunt before the game. Oh wait, that didn't work.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, that didn't quite work out, did it?
No. Let me ask you this:
work out every time, guys. But to have fun with the league, make even the trades like an even trade, and you feel like you're not getting much value, whatever. I mean, just it's fun to switch your team up. I get bored with the same players.
Now, before we move on to the bucket of garbage that is tight end, we'll get there.
How dare you? I've been spending hours looking at tight ends.
It's a dumpster fire.
I'm sorry you've been looking at that. Yeah, it is a dumpster fire. Before we get to that, I have one last question: is Stefon Diggs a buy low candidate, or is he just a disappointment?
That's a great question. People asked me about him this week. It's funny you said that. I feel he's going to kick it to a different gear. He's not been getting the ball. Hopefully he'll get the ball tonight. We'll see what happens.
I think the arrival of Dawson Knox has really cut into his value because he's not getting those red zone targets. I think Emmanuel Sanders has been a capable wide receiver 3 or flex play week to week too, which is hurt. When Stefon Diggs was a clear-cut top 5 pick, it's because there wasn't a number 2 wide receiver. It was like John Brown or somebody like that who was not very helpful. He's still super talented. He's stuck in an offense that spreads it around with a quarterback and a coach who likes to run the ball close to the goal line. So he's not getting any of those easy, quick slants on the goal line too. I think he's a buy low candidate. I agree with Ross. I think he's going to kick it into gear, and he's going to have a few games there where it gets into more of a shootout. And as teams start to maybe adjust their defenses to look out for Dawson Knox or to look out for Emmanuel Sanders, Stefon Diggs has shown he doesn't need that much space to be effective. And it's not like all of the sudden the quarterback has forgotten that he's got a good wide receiver at his number 1 spot
Buffalo's my number 1 rated team. Buffalo they have one loss the whole year, guys. They beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They're a really good football team. They're really, really good. And you know what? Whatever's working, let it keep rolling with it.
I don't think any of us said they weren't.
Hey, listen. When Kansas City was on a high, when Kansas City's on a high, Mahomes is hitting 6, 7, 8 targets. So that's exactly what Buffalo has to do. And by the way, newsflash, touchdown Stefon Diggs. So he just scored.
Did he? He scores.
That's awesome.
That happened. Jim, let me
Maryland Terrapin, by the way, go Terps.
Let me tell you,
I could feel it in the force.
As soon as you rip somebody apart or we talk bad about a player, they score a touchdown. It's like
to add to our disappointment, I think Antonio Gibson has to be considered a disappointment so far this year. He's been a second-round pick, I think, in most drafts with this high ceiling because we had Ron Rivera saying in the preseason he's going to be my Christian McCaffrey. Yep. I'm going to give the same usage out of him, except he's durable. A, he hasn't been durable. B, he's given it to McKissick. Otherwise, we wouldn't have named McKissick as a waiver wire ad for 3 weeks in a row because McKissick's getting a lot of the passing downs and he's getting a lot of the touchdown work. So Antonio Gibson is one. And the other one, since we're going with Christian McCaffrey as the theme of disappointment today, is newsflash, Mike Davis. McCaffrey's backup last year who did awesome for Carolina. He went to Atlanta. Everybody had high hopes from him in Atlanta. And Cordero Patterson has suddenly become the hottest name in fantasy football. And Mike Davis on the season has a whopping 200 yards and 1 touchdown so far through 7 weeks or 6 weeks. So that's somebody else who was a second or third round pick. People were relying on a running back too, and have gotten a bench fodder or a bye week fill-in.
Now that's a perfect lead-in, actually. Oh, sorry, Jim, you had something to say?
I was going to say one thing. You guys asked me before about who would I release at this point, and one guy that I did release on my regular fantasy team 2 weeks ago is Kyler Pitts, and or Pitts from
you released him? I want to join you.
I released him, and I actually picked him up in the draft, but I realized a couple of things, and it's not Pitts' fault. It's the coaching staff, because the coaching staff is brand new, and they don't know how to work the offense and max out the players that they have. So they spent that first round pick with Pitts in the first top 10 picks in the NFL draft, and he hasn't been able to do anything. So I got rid of him. I actually traded him and got something better for it. So it was good.
Well, his last game he played, he did have a great game.
He does really well on British soil.
That's exaccly right. In America, he hasn't done anything yet. But it's kind of like the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Again, if you watched our show our preview show, we talked about tight ends and how rookie tight ends never do that great. I mean, it's
Mike Ditka.
The last one to do was Mike Ditka. That's the last rookie tight end that did well.
Rookie
so, long story short, don't draft a tight end who's a rookie in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah.
No, rookie tight ends do not do very well. You know who else doesn't do very well?
Who?
Veteran tight ends.
How dare you?
Okay, now listen.
Is it bad that my top waiver wire ad for tight end is on a bye this week?
It's a sign of the times. Listen, I mean, to me, Tyler Conklin,
that's him.
Solid enough ad. And who else are you going to add? I mean, who is there?
See, your favorite name in the NFL?
Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah.
This is one of those mysterious tropes that came out of nowhere that I love Mo Alley Cox because I liked his name once. Listen, there's no tight end that I particularly love unless I own Travis Kelce. I mean, it is dismal. I mean, it makes catchers in baseball look like somebody I want to own. I mean, what is going on here? Is there anybody like Tyler Conklin? To me, is like so far above everybody I'd add, and I'm not excited about him at all.
I do. He sounds like a singer, doesn't he? I'm going to say his name. He sounds like he should be singing in a group. Ricky Seals-Jones. I love that name. I don't know why. He plays for the Washington team.
Or a sprinter in the Olympics.
Oh, that too. So he had a touchdown last week. He had 58 yards. He's taking Logan Thomas is still out. They're throwing him more targets every week. It goes bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. This week they play Green Bay. Green Bay is awful against guarding the tight end. They're the worst team in the league, guys. So Ricky Seals-Jones, I love that name. He's my top tight end pick just because they're playing Green Bay. He's a streamer or a streaker, we call it in the business. But that all being said, that's my number one pickup in the tight end.
Yeah, there's not a lot of tight ends.
I got a question for you guys. What about Tanyan from Green Bay? Last year, he was on
this
fire.
Year. Nothing. Zero.
But it is weird. I mean, Jim's question is a good one. What happened to this guy? He had a role.
I don't know. I can tell you what happened. You want to hear what happened? They signed a guy named Randall Cobb. Is that his name? They signed Cobb.
That is his name.
Yeah.
They signed Cobb.
But he was bad before they signed him.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, but Cobb is like the only reason he was signed is because of Rodgers. Rodgers wanted him back on the team, and he joined the team. So I think Rodgers is looking for Cobb a lot more now.
Well, if I remember correctly, last year Tanyan didn't kind of break out until week 5 or 6. I feel like we didn't talk about him. Then all of a sudden he had like a 2 or 3 touchdown game week 5 or 6, and then he went on a roll. I don't know if defense has just kind of figured out his kind of route tree, and it's pretty easy to guard. I don't know. I don't watch it enough.
Listen,
but you're right. It's a mystery because he suddenly became a top 5 tight end in drafts this year.
Exactly.
But the guy, I was watching the Seattle-Pittsburgh game last night, which had some horrendous officiating. If you watched the end of that game, I don't know if you saw the replay they called on DK Metcalf's fumble that allowed Seattle to kick the extra point. But Big Ben was looking for a rookie tight end a lot there in the fourth quarter named Pat Freiermuth. I'm not recommending getting him, but he's somebody who I would put on my watch list maybe to see if this is a connection, because we know Big Ben struggles throwing the ball downfield. So those intermediate routes are his preference. And if Freiermuth becomes one of the safe targets for him over the middle or on the quick outs, it's somebody you could look at. maybe.
Running his name.
I like it, but guys, listen. I can shed some light on what really happened with Robert Tonyan.
Okay.
In week 5 of last year, he was playing me in 2 different leagues, and that is why he did so.
Oh, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
This is fantasy sports for you.
Ratner playing
The Ratner curse.
All right,
or gift.
Now listen.
There's somebody else too this guy has the best first name in sports. I mean, this guy's name, his first name, I love his name. He's a stud. If you have
Sam?
this name, you're a stud. His name is Ross Dwelly. He plays for the 49ers. He's been getting the ball before last couple weeks. He's been getting the ball a lot. So if you need a tight end, it's not very easy to remember his first name. It's Ross. And you guys know any other Rosses that are studs? Yeah, you do. You're talking to him right now. So yes.
Notice how quickly Ross continued to plow through to make sure we didn't say no.
Make sure you guys didn't rip me apart. So Ross Dwelly, I do like him a lot. They do throw the ball a lot, especially with those quarterbacks there that don't like to throw the long ball. They like to throw the intermediate pass, like Casey Scheinvolt just said. So yes, Ross Dwelly could be a good pickup this week, especially they're playing, I believe, Indianapolis. So there you go.
All right, we have very little time left. Let's cover a few defenses that we'd like to stream this week. Jim, you have anybody in mind?
Well, I'll tell you, on my fantasy team, I got 2 defenses because I am just like, I wanted to make sure that I score a lot of points. And so I've got the Rams and I've got the Ravens. And let me tell you,
they're both not available. They're both over 60%.
But
so
that's,
you screwed me again.
Great setup.
Thanks a lot.
All right. I got to stop thinking 60%. All right, here we go.
Okay. So I like Arizona's playing Houston. You always bet against Houston, guys. It's a rule. So Arizona. Another defense that I love this week is the Saints is playing Seattle. Seattle, I don't even know who their quarterback is anymore. Maybe they'll start Cam Newton. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But we're starting the Saints defense against
Gino
Seattle.
Smith is famous for 2 things: breaking Eli Manning's start streak and now breaking Russell Wilson's start streak. That's pretty much all he did in his NFL career. That's all he
did. And I saw the fumble I saw that stupid fumble he did, idiot. But there are some good pickups, and the other good defensive pickup.
Just name them all, Ross.
But it's the Dolphins. I'll pick up the Dolphins defense against your Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely, all day long.
I mean, those are Ross the Boss's top 3 defenses to pick up. Similar under 60%.
Similar type of play though. New England 59% rostered, and they're playing the Jets.
The Jets and
that's
Carolina,
a great pickup too.
And Carolina is 54% against my Giants. So
who's playing?
Good pickup.
Who's playing the Browns?
We got 5.
The Denver Broncos. You will not be able to get them on the wire.
I would pick up the Denver defense. I mean, they're playing Cleveland.
5. That's unbelievable.
True, but they're 89% owned, Jim. However, if you're playing in a league where they're available, grab them for sure.
It must be a league of idiots, but maybe you can get them, Jim. Tell me who to sign up with. How about kickers?
Let's get to kickers. Okay, so one thing not to do is to pick up your Browns kicker before you go to that game because it was another part of the disaster. Okay, on to the next thing. Casey, who would you pick up at kicker?
I think the best one is probably Daniel Carlson, the Las Vegas Raiders kicker right now. He's going against the Eagles in the Dome. That would be probably my top pickup, but he's 58% owned. So
this, by the way, is a rematch of Super Bowl 15. I just need to note that because very few people know that. Raiders versus Eagles.
That's a good
Super
point.
I did not know that.
That's good
stuff. That's good stuff. I did not know that.
Dick Vermeil coached
That's interesting.
the Eagles.
Dick Vermeil.
Anybody else in kickers?
Nick Folk is the Patriots kicker. They'll go against the Jets, as we know. Anytime the Jets play, you play as many fantasy guys
downhill there.
Yeah, I mean Nick Folk. There you go.
Jim, anybody to name?
Well, I mean, I think of the old guy Prater, but
we love Matt Prater.
We love Matt Prater.
Prater's our favorite.
Yeah, I would. He's Mr. Dependable.
He's great. I mean, is Tucker still available in leagues?
He is not likely to be available in leagues. I don't think
no kicker leagues he is. You can pick him up on leagues that don't have.
Heck, he went in the 6th round.
Actually, Tucker is actually 100% rostered.
Oh my god,
he's a kicker who is 100% rostered. That's incredible. I mean, Tyler Bass
look at the points he gets every week.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't miss a field goal. So there's no. you're going to score points every week with this guy. He's unbelievable.
Well, guys, thank you for joining me in bringing the best names to the fantasy football players here in heading into NFL Week 7, Waiver Wire Week 6. It's been great having you with us. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put those comments below. We would love to have discussions with you. Meanwhile, remember, our rankings come out each Wednesday at www.mfsn.tv. And Jim, thank you for joining us. We hope you're back frequently.
Glad to have you on here.
And if you want to watch our Super Draft Pro show tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern, you'll see Jim and I give unbelievable information. So please join us.
Thank you, guys. We will see you same time next week.
Hey, everyone. Mustache Stars here for Killcliff CBD. The best and tastiest way to get CBD into your body is with Killcliff CBD drinks. 125 milligrams of broad spectrum hemp extract yields 25 milligrams of CBD. And it's more than gummies, tinctures, or lotions. Life just got better with Killcliff CBD. And it makes that itch on my face go away. Real science, killer taste, own it. Go to killcliff.com.